What does it take to go from coward to hero? And can science and friendship really save the world? Today we're joined by former science teacher and host of the Sci-Fi Savage, Shereese Alexander, and we are chatting about my personal favorite sci-fi book of all time, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm Candice Rodarty.
I'm Space Cadet Shane, second class.
And you are listening to Sci-Fi Book Pod. Welcome, Shereese.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, it's such a strong statement that this is your favorite sci-fi book of all time in a universe full of sci-fi books. So I wonder, why is that?
It is my favorite sci-fi book because of the ending. It has the absolutely most perfect ending of any book I've ever read. It has zero loops. It is done. It doesn't leave you questioning or wondering. Everything you need to know is in this book.
And more things that you need to know.
And more things, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's coming out as a film starring Ryan Reynolds
Ryan Gosling.
Wow.
One of the
know
Ryans.
Ryan Reynolds is not the right character. Ryan Gosling is the right person to
Although
play
he'd
this
be
character.
hilarious, and this character is very hilarious. So
But not in the right.
he's not goofy though. But
He's
he
not
is,
the
but
right.
he is
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, sorry. I always get all the Ryans mixed up. Are there more Ryan? Ryan, it's at least I didn't say Ryan, the host of American Idol, Ryan Seacrest. Right?
Yeah.
That would have been funny. So it's coming out next year as a film, and when I found out it was coming out as a film, I accidentally watched the preview, the trailer. I shouldn't have done that because I got mad. So then I decided we need to do the book as an episode before the movie comes out, because the book. Movies oftentimes ruin storyline. I won't even get started on what Star Wars did to the books, but we're just gonna focus on this book right now. So here's the summary. Here's what happens in the book without giving you any spoilers. I don't think so.
There's going to be spoiler alerts. There are going to be spoilers.
However,
if
the
you're
movie
listening to Sci-Fi Book Pod, there will be spoilers. That's the second tagline. There will be spoilers.
There will be spoilers. That actually is in there. Okay, so this dude, Ryland Grace, he's an astronaut. He wakes up on a ship. He's all alone. He doesn't have any idea who he is or where he is or why he's there. And then slowly his memory starts to unwind. And it turns out that he is the lone astronaut tasked with saving Earth. Does this saving Earth theme sound familiar if you listen to episodes 1 through 3 of the show? Why is it that astronauts always have to save Earth? Anyway, this time there is a deadly astrophage that is threatening the sun. So as he gets his memory back, he discovers that he is not alone in the galaxy. He actually encounters a being from another planet, and lo and behold, that being has the same problem he has, all alone on a spaceship trying to save his planet. So they work together against the clock to save both of their worlds. And it is, like I said, it is the perfect book. Everything, well, I think Shereese has different opinions on some of the parts, but it is, in my opinion, the perfect story. It has all the aspects, all the things that I want in a sci-fi book. So when I was in 9th grade, Mr. Roberts taught us the secret to writing a perfect essay. Introduction, tell them what you're going to tell them. Choose 3 quotes from the book. Write a paragraph about each of those quotes, and then wrap it up by summarizing what you just said in your previous 4 paragraphs. So I thought that for this particular episode that I would choose, since this is my book choice, that I'll choose 3 quotes from the book, and then we'll discuss them. So, you ready?
Ready.
The first quote is for you, Shereese. It's the kids of today that'll have to make the world of tomorrow work. So as a former science teacher, how do you feel about that quote?
I mean, that's always true, right? Whoever's alive at the time is the one who has to make it work. So that's kind of always the case, right? Like, the people who are long past can't do anything about the situation at this point. I'm actually thinking, me and my friends recently did this huge Lord of the Rings watch party where we did all 3 movies, and we did, it was called There and Snack Again. So we did all the foods that happened in the movie, like, throughout. It was really fun. But one of the things that we were talking about in watching that was, hold on, I lost my train of thought completely because now I'm thinking about snacks. Hold on. I literally
of today.
Yes, kids of today, the people who are alive have to handle it. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I'll make another point with Lord of the Rings. There was something like so perfect about what you're saying. But okay, so the in Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King, Aragorn has to come and basically clean up the mess of his ancestors. And he is held responsible for everything that his ancestor Isildur did, like hundreds, thousands years ago or whatever. And everybody looks at him kind of funny, like, it's you. He literally was not born. There was like so many lines back that were not born, but it's his job to clean up the mess of what his ancestor did. And he took that responsibility very seriously. It was on his shoulders of, can I be stronger than he was? Can I make the right choice when he made the wrong choice? And that's always going to be the case, that whoever is left standing holding the bag will have to fix the situation. But I will say that in this story, where the world is ending and Ryland Grace is trying to save it with science, the people who are like the entire scientific community of the planet Earth are also working together to solve this issue. It's not like the movie Armageddon, where it's like this handful of astronauts and they have to destroy the giant asteroid or else. It's not really like that. It's like every single scientist is being pulled together to find solutions. And it's very collaborative. And that's kind of a through line for this book. So it's not all on the kids. They're doing as much as they can to mitigate things so that the kids will still be alive, so that they can save the Earth.
Well, and the other planet too.
Yes.
Where the alien is from, they're doing the exact same thing. They're all coming together and working together to solve this singular problem. Which, what can we learn from this lesson? Did you want to add anything to that, Space Cadet?
The sins of our father is prevalent in the book. Is that basically exactly what Shereese said, is that whoever was holding the bag, the hot potato at the time, and then there's how we teach today, or how we exempt ourselves from the sins of our father all the time in current events or whatever timeline you're in. The saying is, well, you can't blame that person for the sins of their father, kind of thing. Yes, that's correct, but also there's this mess that has to be cleaned up as well.
Yeah.
And that falls upon the person that's that's holding the hot potato. I think Sheree's right. It depends. I mean, all through time, every generation has an hot potato. And so, because the environment is such a prevalent thing in everybody's life, it touches everybody's life. There's literally no one on the face of this planet right now that is not being touched by the environment they live in and the changes that they have to mitigate. So what this book does is that the damage is not environmental, but a space age amoeba, you want to call it, or a single cell organism that's coming out of the universe, astrophage they call it, that is taking the energy of the sun, all right, and dropping the temperature of the sun by a few degrees, but that's more than enough to basically destroy the planet. So what the author did, which is if you think about it, is very clever how he writes this, is that he took the environment equation, the debate, off the table. Okay? He did the environment thing from outer space. And then he looked at humans within and said, okay, how humans would react to this in a pressure cooker situation. If you don't get this done, if we don't solve this, we're all gone. All of us, no matter who you are. All right? There's no political here, this, that, and the other thing. In fact, in part of the book, where basically the environmental scientist has to reverse greenhouse effect to keep the Earth warm as it's going down this cooling period to save more lives.
They are supercharging the greenhouse effect to keep the planet warm.
Exactly. So he even goes, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I spent my whole entire life trying to save the planet, and now I am doing the opposite to keep the planet hot. Yeah. And so the author took this debate, because no matter where you go, it's just like, oh no, it's not global warming, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this. And so he took that off the table, and he directed it out he took it and he directed it out outer space. So there is no debate on that.
Yeah.
And then he had the children he was teaching as like, oh crap, what are they gonna? And they're gonna inherit this, and he's in his generation is holding the hot potato.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I kind of see it in a way.
I am hoping that anybody who reads this book understands how important it is that we think of future generations when we make decisions about things that we do today. I hope that's my takeaway from that quote. Because why do we have to give them a crappy world? Why can't we leave the world better than we found it? I think that's a scouting tenet. That's something I learned as a Girl Scout when I was 7, right? Leave the world a better place. But that, we can talk, that's a debate for a different type of podcast. All right, my second quote, I think Shane will want this, will want to respond to this one first. You've got to love computers. They do all the thinking for you, so you don't have to. What do you think of that quote, Shane?
What part of the book was that from? What was the contents?
The context is that he was trusting his computer to do the calculations. So that I think it's when he was trying to find Rocky.
Okay.
Rocky is the alien from the other planet.
Yeah. Okay.
But I want you to address the quote itself, not just the context.
Okay.
Gotta love computers. Gotta love computers. They do all the thinking for you, so you don't have to. Because I know you have thoughts on AI.
Oh, yeah. I definitely have thoughts on AI. Yes, as an artist, I do. I have thoughts on AI. I think when we move from, okay, for example, the Roman Empire. We'll take the Roman Empire for example. Okay, so people think that basically, if you look at Roman Empire or that area of the world at that time, that everybody was living, like pioneer days, in a way. All right, that's not the case. At least 80% of them, or if not 90%, were all farmers. Okay, because food was like you had to have food. That was the main thing. But the majority of people who lived in the Roman Empire at that time were in cities. And if you're in a city, it's like a city today, all right? You'd go for snacks. Food would be delivered. Your life is very, very, not plush, but basically there are a lot of needs that are being taken care of by other sources. And
most Romans didn't cook at home. They went out to eat for every meal.
Yeah, so they lived in apartments. There was no way to store food. You couldn't store food. It was not like you had a refrigerator, all right? You could store a couple of things for a day or two, but other than that, you relied on the city and the government to supply bread, grain, and so on. And then you had community bakeries and so on, and then you had the baker kind of thing. But my point is that they had manufacturing going on, okay? Large-scale manufacturing, all right? So when the empire fell, or you could say it fell, when it divided and went to different sources, okay? We call that basically the dark times, all right? And it is because of the dark times, you could say, is that because you had a majority of population, not majority, but people who lived in the city and stuff like that didn't know how to make their own food, all right? Didn't know how to, because they relied on other things for that. So computers or AI is the same way, in my opinion, is that basically as we go deeper and deeper and deeper, humans have no self-control, all right? We go to the easiest path, always. The easiest, water will take the easiest path, humans will take the easiest path. When I had boys in the shop that worked on furniture, stuff like that, they always took the easiest path, and I always had a bit of blockers in there for them to work at it. So for me, AI is a tool. Right now, it's a novelty, all right? But as soon as we become dependent on that and these, all right?
He just picked up his phone, y'all.
As we saw in COVID, is that we distance ourselves, all right, from other human beings, all right? The interaction of human beings. And that's, to me, as an artist, that's danger. That's a danger thing. Is that basically humans like pretty pictures, like flashy stuff, and it's easy. Look, I'm an artist. No, you're not. You didn't work at it. Okay. Oh, look, I'm a musician. No, you're not. You didn't work at it. All right. So mathematics or AI technology can be. It'll take the same effect because that's artistic way as well. Science is art, and so I think AI is good for like figuring out problems, like the bigger problems and whatever it is. But at the same time, it's kind of like YouTube, right? 50% of YouTube is really good. I mean, it's good stuff. The other stuff is just crap.
20% of YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
20% of YouTube is good, including this show. The other 80%.
Right. So my feeling on AI is that it's something that's going to be abused. Okay? And in the abuse, you're going to have laziness. And then from that laziness, you're going to have decay. And from that decay, you're going to lose. You're going to lose the humanity of it. It's kind of like, use AI, but, check. I've heard other authors go, well, I do use the AI to stop a word block or a writing block, kind of thing. It's kind of like, and I said, I get that because you would use AI as a second person in the room and ask the question, and that would snap you out of your stump kind of thing. So I did have heard that people using that kind of thing, but that's kind of like my view of AI. It's good in a way, technology, yada yada, this, that, and the other thing. But at the same time, that doesn't solve the human problem. That does not solve our problems. No. Because our problems are rooted back in the caves.
One of the lessons to learn from this conversation, though, is that after the Roman Empire fell and we went into the Dark Ages, the formula for concrete was lost for like 2,000 years or 1,500 years. We didn't know how to build with concrete because nobody remembered the formula.
Well, we didn't have that. The infrastructure wasn't there.
Well, that as well. The infrastructure also. Shereese, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I want to make a couple distinctions. So I think there's a difference between computers and AI, even though AI is, next level technology. But AI was not. AI was in the robot that was keeping Grayson alive while he was in a coma, but really he was just talking about laptops in general. And the funny thing about him saying that quote of, oh, this is great because computers just think for you, is that he thinks all the time. He thinks really hard. That's why he's on this trip. Like, he's on here because of his thinking ability, his ability to problem solve creatively, his ability to think laterally, his ability to combine technologies. So it's funny that he makes a statement that implies he's lazy in some way. He's a lazy thinker because he's not a lazy thinker, and he's a teacher. So teachers tend to not be, teachers could be lazy thinkers, but teachers, in my experience, really love learning, which is why they're teachers. So they are constantly, thinking and planning and kind of brainstorming. So it's kind of funny that he's just like, oh yeah, I love that computers can just do all my thinking for me, because this is like the first time he's allowed anything to do thinking for him. This is his jam. It's his zone of genius. So I would separate those two things, just like technology, which is what he's talking about when he says computers. So I would also put electricity, running water, flushing toilets, like all those things would be in, under the heading of computer. It's so great that this can do this for me, so I don't have to scoop out my own waste. This is awesome. And I also will say with computers, like I have used technology, especially since the pandemic, but even before that, to connect with people all over the world. And it's one of my greatest joys that I have friends all over the globe, and I would never have met these people if I had to rely on face-to-face meetings. Never, ever, ever. I had it actually. This is really interesting. There was a social media platform. It still exists, but it's not as popular now that people can leave their homes. It's called Clubhouse, and it's an audio-only platform. And jumped on there once the world shut down, and it was so great to talk to people from all over the world, because we're like people, I mean, I'm an introvert, so this was perfect for me, because when I was overwhelmed with the people, I just closed the app. So that was great. It was like I didn't have to leave the room or get in my car. I could just like close it. And I actually met the head scientist of NASA, who was the person who Andy Weir consulted for this book and consulted for The Martian. So we were talking about that experience. Like, what was it, how many people come to him to consult? Apparently lots and lots of people. And Hollywood comes all the time to consult about like sciencey stuff when it comes to space missions. And he was kind of like their quality control person to be like, no, it would be this machine, not that machine or whatever. And I would have never even known that guy existed without social media, let alone be able to be in the same quote unquote room and have full on conversations. And, we got to sit and talk about just fun stuff like Star Trek and space. And I learned that space has a smell. Didn't know that. I learned all kinds of space stuff from this guy that
crap,
I did not know.
Space has a smell?
Yes, it has a smell.
What does it smell like?
Burnt meat. Go figure. Go figure. And I was like, what is causing the smell? He's like, exactly, because there's so many particles in space, but we think of space as empty, but space is actually not empty. It's just, it was a whole, again, for me as a lifelong learner, like geektopia right there.
Yeah.
It could be space poop.
It could be space poop.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just like, what? Like, and space has a sound. There's all these things that I was like, what the heck? And so
Did you record that conversation?
You know what? Clubhouse did not allow recording at the time. It was like a feature that they brought up when the world opened back up and people were like, yeah, I can go outside. So I didn't get a ton of experience with the recording feature, but lots of conversations like that were so interesting. There was a lot of space people in Clubhouse. Anyways, point is, I am a firm believer that technology can be used to connect us as much as it can be used to keep us apart. And a lot of people are like, social media, it's just keeping us isolated, blah, blah, blah. People don't want to talk to people. Okay, but let's be real. People didn't want to talk to people in the first place. Like, without social media, those people would be the loners sitting in the corner with their hoods on because they didn't want to talk to people in any case. And the people who are, chatty and wanting to meet people are going to do that regardless of the tool you give them, because that is what they will do. So while I disagree that technology is the thing that separates us, I think it can be the thing that brings us together. I do agree that human problems are human problems. And no matter how much technology you have, you still have the human element, which is, fighting for power and wanting to be heard and being misunderstood and wanting to be like all the things that people do. All the problems we experience are caused by people, but those same problems can only be solved by people. So it's this catch-22 that constantly keeps us in this cycle of prosperity and war.
I actually want to spin off of what you said is that all right, so AI or anything we create before or after that is a tool. All right. And the thing is that is kind of like all sci-fi robots per se going, like there's always this sci-fi robot or sci-fi book that basically says that machines will be smarter than us and so on, this, that, and the other thing. And what most of our tools do, if not all tools do, is that they're designed for speed and they're designed for accuracy. In other words, humans make too many mistakes, so let's create a tool so there's not many mistakes. That could be basically a computer program, an AI, as well as a jig and a table saw or anything like that. A hammer, all right, that only hammers this direction, this way, this many pounds, blah, blah, blah. And so that eliminates all the human error. What I find is that no matter what we create, it's kind of like through time, there's this leapfrog of technology, okay? And its goal is always to make things faster, easier, and somewhat smarter. The problem with that scenario is that the creator is flawed. So it's always going to create a flawed tool in some sort. In other words, there's always going to be a percentage of that flawness because humans are flawed. In other words, they create a program of this computer and say, oh, this computer is, it's smarter than humans and this, that, and the other thing. It's just like, no, it's impossible to be. That's impossible because this creator is flawed, all right? In other words, there's always going to be that percentage of whatever machine you create that there's going to be a flaw, all right? And just in the book, I mean, how many things goes wrong in that spaceship alone? Every sci-fi book that has this kind of premise always has the machine going wrong because that's part of the story. And how does the human adapt to it of this technology that's supposed to make it easier or better or this and in this book, 2 of his comrades die. because technology didn't work. Okay. So anyway, next.
We need to move on, but I have two things I want to say along the lines of the computer. Ryland Grace was given every single bit of information, and including video games, that was available to be given on computers on this spaceship, so that he would have access to anything that he might possibly need. And it turned out he needed some of it. And the second thing I want to say is, almost 30 years ago, Shane Redarty met this chick in an AOL chat room, and today they are married.
Look, AOL caused so much love to happen. AOL is magical because...
What do you get, Shereese? AOL. So there you go. Technology has caused connections.
That literally makes Shereese's point, is that because we're kind of all inverts. I think if you're a sci-fi nerd, you're somewhat an invert.
An introvert, yeah.
Introvert. So, yeah.
All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is the actual character of Dr. Grace, Ryland Grace. And this quote is a gut punch quote. Because in the books, we feel, he's a hero. Ryland Grace is a hero. But this is when we learn about who he really is. And then we understand who he has become. So the quote is, "Do you think I don't know you, Dr. Grace? You avoid risk like the plague." This man gave up a scientific career to become a middle school teacher. He did not actually want to be an astronaut. He just wanted to work on the project. He didn't want to go into space. He's single. He's never been married, and he's in his 40s, maybe late 30s. So he was always living in fear. So, Shereese, do you want to talk about that?
Shereese, I was going to take that.
Yeah. I remember the first time reading that book, and I reread it just for this conversation, but I remember the first time reading this story and hearing that, and the disappointment in his voice when he remembers, oh, wait a minute, I didn't actually want to be on this mission. I'm not some hero who's saving the planet. Like, I'm here kind of against my will, but because the planet needs me and I'm the best person for the job. But I would rather have much less qualified people here so that I could be safe and sound at home, and safe is relative, right? Because the Earth is undergoing some catastrophic changes. I remember just feeling really surprised, because that was a surprise for the audience, but also really just a lot of empathy and sadness for him that he misunderstood his own character. But I also believe that we can sometimes stay stuck in boxes that have been created for us by others or by society, etc. And it takes almost losing your mind in order to be like, wait a minute, that's not even true. That's just a box that I've been in. It's a role I've been playing because that's what I've played my whole life, but that doesn't have to be me. And so that's kind of the positive takeaway I have from this experience, even though that's not what he was experiencing. He was sad because he's realizing, wait, I'm a coward, not a hero. But I think, yes, you've been a coward up until now. And now you are a hero. And now you can step into that because it's true. Maybe you were put in this situation, you kicking and screaming, but you're in the situation now and you rose to the occasion and you've done your best work. And he did say, no matter what, I would have done my best work, because that's who he is. And it's like acknowledging this other part of his character, that he's not just a coward. He's the kind of person who does their best work, who loves the challenge, who loves the science, who is going to put in a lot of effort and a lot of heart to get something done and get it done well. And I think it's good for him to embrace that part of himself. He can let the coward go. He can leave the coward on Earth, and he can be a new person out in space.
And I think that's the underlying theme of this book, is the transformation. The transformation. You can become something other than what you think you are. But Rocky does the same thing, though. Rocky is an engineer. Yeah. He's an engineer.
He's not any of the other things.
He's not any of the things.
He's not a pilot.
Either.
He's not any of those things.
But
he was stuck in the back.
Yeah.
He was stuck in the back of the ship, forgotten.
Yeah. To fix things, and it's these two unassuming, the last people that you would think would be the ones that save our planet are the ones that save our planet.
The thing about I've noticed in literature is that the stories that really sell, that really move you, that you somewhat see yourself in them, because we all seen somewhat Ryan in all of us when you read it, or especially the whole coward part. It's just like, because, yeah, what happened if we didn't have all that baggage of, you can't do that. You're not good enough. All right. You can't draw a straight line. You can't write perfect sentences. So you can't be a writer. All right. So let's say you took all that all away. And that's what I can't remember her name, the woman that was in charge.
Strat?
Yes,
Strat. That's what Strat did. She gave him the injection that basically made him forget everything, all that baggage. And the only thing that he kept was his knowledge. And from that knowledge, he goes, you remember in the beginning when he first arrived and woke up, he goes, oh my gosh, I'm a scientist. And he was like, oh, yay, I'm a scientist. And so then you get to that end part, like you said, and he literally says, oh my God, I'm a coward. All right. And, we've all been in situations where, I don't want to say man up or woman up or anything like that. We've been all in those situations where we either had to decide to, okay, we're going to have to do this interview. I have to do this, or I have to do that. But all through literature and works, you will find this stream of a misfit or these misfits, okay, overcoming whatever baggage they have.
Lord of the Rings.
Right? Lord of the
Misfits.
Rings, Star Wars, farm boy from, back way, the kind of thing. Oh, he can't be this, he can't be that, I'm just a farm boy. And so on and so on and so on. So these stories, these adventures, and that's why I think this book really works, is that you have not just one, but you have two characters working off their strengths and leaving behind, except for Rocky. Rocky knows who he is. And, he goes, well, I'm not a scientist. And he kind of like the author actually says when Rocky he goes, that's an octave lower. He's not proud of that. He's not proud of that. But Rocky constantly goes, I fix things.
Rocky at the very beginning, Rocky did denigrate himself.
Yes.
Yeah, he said, I failed again. I failed so many times. I keep failing. I can't do it. And Ryland's like, all right, but we're together now, so we're good. And he's like, you're right. Okay, great. Yes, let's go. And they kind of cheer each other on when they get bummed out.
Which is the second theme of the book, is that you can do great things together.
Right.
And nothing alone. Because neither of these creatures would have been able to do anything for their planet solo at this point.
Well, back to Shane and I meeting each other. That's the reason why people get married, so that there is somebody to cheer you on for your wins and to console you for your losses. That's why people pair up together.
It's us against the world, us against the problem. It's so on and so on. Okay, but we're running out of time, so we better wrap this up, because I'm looking at the clock and I know she has to go, and so on and so on and so on. I would like to talk about the ending a little.
Okay. I don't know if I really want to give away the ending, because it's so perfect. And I like that if in case the audience hasn't read the book, I would like it to be a pleasant surprise.
Well, they can be a pleasant surprise, so just don't listen after this point. No.
Fast forward 5 minutes, please.
Fast forward 5 more minutes. No, I'm not going to complete the ending, but complete fully the ending. But it's such a beautiful ending. It's such a beautiful ending. It's something that we all, as humans, kind of like strive for, is that we think, in other words, he thought home was there. He thought home was, remember, he always wanted to go home. He wants to go home. He didn't want to commit suicide, blah, blah, blah. He was home, right? But he actually found out where his home was, right? It's what he loved doing. Was his friends, even if they were like spiders.
Yeah. Well, and that what you just said, it's what he loved doing. Home is what you love doing.
Right.
Because you can do what you love doing anywhere. Anywhere can be home.
Right.
It's not a location, it's a feeling.
No.
I love that, Shane.
I would maybe add that home is who you love being, because doing comes out of being. So it's not just like, I do this every day and that makes me feel fulfilled. Sometimes, But sometimes you do stuff that usually makes you feel fulfilled, and sometimes it's just not working, you know, but it's who you're being, when you feel expressed, when you feel free, when you feel creative, when you feel accepted or loved, or whatever things that are actually, though you may think accepted and loved is something external, is something that's internal first. And when you feel like exactly the way things should be, when you feel that on the inside, that is home.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I think also the book really does really good. He really does good when he connects humor to everything, because humor is as way as he makes it real with humor. You always make it real with humor, because humor is the connection of. That's how you deal with stress. That's how we all deal with stress. That's how humans deal with stress. Is comedy, is humor, and because that stress level gets so high that you have to go, oh my God, this is just hilarious. I mean, how did I get myself in this mess? And the only way to relieve it, and you have that joking, that sarcasm between him and Rocky, him and the alien, a lot, especially at the end. It's funny. It's a good time.
It is. So thank you both for sharing my favorite book with me. Shereese, I'm going to give you the last word on the book, and then we'll tell the audience how to find you.
Yeah, I will say it does get science heavy. Andy Weir, who's the author, is a physicist, and it shows. He super loves formulas and equations and whatnot, and so sometimes it does get a bit heavy with that. However, the story itself is beautifully told. It's a great story. It's interesting. It's something I haven't read before, and I've read quite a lot of things. So if you're listening because you've read this book before, let's go see the movie and see if we like it. And if you are listening and you haven't read the book before, definitely give it a shot. It may take you a while. It's quite a long book. But I think you will really enjoy the lovely ending.
Right.
All right, Shereese, how can people find you?
You can find me on all the social media channels and YouTube at the Sci-Fi Savage. And if you are a Star Trek fan, you can check out my podcast, the TNG Podcast, that I did with one of my best friends for a couple of years, where we did a episode-by-episode breakdown of that show, of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So if you're a fan of that, you will either love or hate our podcast.
I've actually started listening to your podcast, by the way.
Yeah, you may hate it. You may hate it, Shane.
Oh my God. I love it. Actually, I'm listening. I'm going, what episode is this again? And I'm listening. I'm going, oh, I don't like that episode. So I keep on going. I go, oh, I like that episode. What do they have to say about this episode?
You know, it's funny. Nice we did the exact same thing. We were just like, oh, we don't like this episode. Let's just skip it.
I landed on one of them where you did say, you guys, oh, this is like, I don't like this. This is like the worst episode.
We say it so much where we're just like, can't we just skip it? And then my co-host was like, no. We can't just skip whole episodes. And I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, right. You know what? That's really the premise of this show too, is our guest chooses the book I chose the book this time because we did the book that you wanted to do in the last episode, which is the Murderbot, the first book in the Murderbot series. Mm-hmm. And so, but there is another book that another guest that is coming up picked that Shane and I kind of didn't like. But our guest
had to read it.
So, but we read the book and we're going to discuss it with him. So.
This is actually, third time that I'm listening to this book and I'm trying to get through. It's like, I've listened and read War and Peace, all right? I'd rather read War and Peace.
Oh my gosh.
And that book is coming up in probably, that might be the next episode, but we're not sure yet. All right, so and then Shereese, you were our previous episode. So if you love Shereese and you want to hear more book talk with Shereese, be sure to check out our conversation about All Systems Red, the first of the Murderbot series, and the author of that book is
Shereese.
Martha Wells, and that is also a TV show on Apple. So you might listen to the podcast first and then watch the TV show. I haven't seen the show yet, I
would suggest read the book first, or listen to the book first before you see the show. And the reason being is that what you said about basically when you listen to, or when you re-listen to this book, that you kept on seeing Ryan in your head, all right?
Ryan Gosling, yeah.
Gosling in your head.
What's wrong with that?
I did. I went the second
why is this a problem?
Because there's no problem with Ryan Gosling. But also, there is a bonus episode that will probably be out on the same day as this episode, where I am talking to Joshua Dalzell, who is the author of the Omega Force series of books, about Project Hail Mary on my other podcast, Gratitude Geek. And there will also be links to my appearance on the TNG podcast, too, because, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for now. All the links you need to connect with Shereese and the show are in the show notes. I've been Space Admiral Candace Renardi.
I'm Space Cadet Shane, second class.
And I'm Shereese, the Sci-Fi Savage.
There you go.
And you have been listening to Sci-Fi Book Pod.